The doubts related to October-November 2021 paper. A scientist uses an electric motor to lift a load through a vertical distance of 2 meters. For example, there's a load which is lifted to a height of 2 meters by using the motor. He then increases the input power. So if we increase the input power and efficiency of a motor does not change. So efficiency is equals to power output, useful power output divided by total power input into 100. So if efficiency is constant, if we increase the power input, the power output should also increase because it's like we need a constant value, like we need the same number. So if input power increase, output power will also increase. And if the power increase, power is work done over time. So if power increases, the time to do the work done will decrease. So we'll take a short time. So the time interval should decrease. Which row correctly describe the effect of the useful work done and the time to lift? What about the work done? Work done is independent of the time. It depends on how much, what load we are lifting. Like example, we did not change the load. We are lifting the same load. So load is not changed. So force is same and the distance which we are moving, that is also same. So force and distance are same. That's why the work done will be same or a constant. But the time, because the power is increased, so the time will decrease. Is it clear, this one? So work done will be constant or it will be same, but the time, it will take a short time to do the same work. And why the work done is same? Because we are lifting the same object to a same height. No, work done is independent of the time. Work done does not depend on time at all. Work done only depends on two factors, like what force is applied and how much distance we move. Work done is independent of the route or the path we follow. Like example, we have point A, we move an object to a shelf by following path 1, or path 2, or path 3. Because our final positions are same, so 1, 2, and 3 will all have the same work done. So work done does not depend on the route or the path. It depends on what load is lifted and what is the difference between the starting point, like how much height or difference is there between the starting point and the final point. So it is irrespective of how it is done or how much time we took to do the work done. As we were lifting the same load and we were lifting to the same height, so the work done will be same. Power depends on the work. If the work done changes, the power will also change. But because here in this question, the work done is same. So power is work divided by time. So if you are taking a short, if you are increasing the input power, then the time interval will be short. Or power into time is equals to work done, because we want the same, we did the same work done. So if the power is increasing, the time interval will decrease. In this question, the diagram shows two cylinders are there. One of the cylinder 80 cm cube, which was having a gas at pressure. So first volume is 80 and 2 exponent 5. The volume of evacuated cylinder is 20 cm cube. The tap is open. Look, the moment we open the tap, the gas can flow. Like first, all the gas was in 80 cm cube, but the moment we open the tap, the gas will flow. But it's not like all the gas will flow out to 20. The gas will occupy the total volume of 80 and 20, the two cylinders, as they are connected with each other. So there will be a gas in 80 and there will be a gas at 20. So what will be the final volume of the gas? It won't be 20, it will be 100. The sum of the total volume available, because gases does not have a fixed volume, it occupy the space given. So originally it was 80 as the tap was closed, but then when we open the tap, the gas will diffuse and move towards the 20 cm cube, and it will be there also in 80 as well as 20. So the total volume of the gas will be 100. Is it clear now? if the question was a gas was in 80 cm cube and then it transferred to 20 cm cube and then the tap was closed, then the final volume should be 20. But the question is just we open the tap, so the gas will be there in 80 as well as 20. So the total volume will not be 20, it will be 100, 80 plus 20. Yeah, if we close the tap after some time, the gas will be there in both cylinders. Two beams of a light are both same color, red. One beam is traveling through air, another one is traveling through water. Each beam has a different brightness. Which quantity is same for both of them? Remember one thing, the frequency is a quantity which never changes. If a light travels from one medium to another, the wavelength, the intensities, amplitude can vary. Like example, one medium, for example, in air, the light is not absorbed, but if it is traveling in water, the intensity will decrease because water will absorb some of the energy, so the amplitude will decrease. So amplitude won't remain the same, amplitude will decrease, speed will decrease, and wavelength will also decrease. So the quantity which will remain constant, that is frequency. Frequency of a wave does not change. Yeah, amplitude can decrease in glass as well. That's right. So amplitude of a wave vary depending on from which medium like it is traveling. Amplitude is not constant. If amplitude of the light was constant or it remains same, then we should be able to see all the light around us. But what happens when the light, even it passes through a medium, its amplitude reduces, so the intensity of the light will also decrease. Is it clear this one? Two resistors are there, R1 and R2, which are connected in parallel. The resistance of R1 is greater than R2. What is the resistance of parallel combination? Remember one thing, in a parallel combination, the resistance is always smaller than the smallest one in the combination. Like example, if I say one of the resistance was 6, another one is 3. Without calculation, I can tell that the total resistance, it will be less than 3 ohm. Like it is always smaller than the smallest one in the combination. And how we can work out the combined resistance of parallel? It is a product divided by sum. So it will be 6 into 3 divided by 6 plus 3. So 6 into 3 is 18. And 18 divided by 6 plus 3, 9. So 18 divided by 9, that's equal to 2 ohm. So you can see the combined resistance in parallel is always smaller than the smallest one in combination. So if R1 is greater than R2, so if I want the total resistance will be less than R2 and as well as R1. It is always less than the smallest one in the combination. So what is the resistance of parallel combination? So it will be less than the, like the combined resistance will always be smaller than the smallest one in the combination. Like it will be smaller than both of them, the resistor. Is it clear, this question? What is the function of split ring commutator in a DC motor? So it reverses the direction of a current. These planes are never parallel. It's always perpendicular. Like example, if this is representing the split rings, so this is split ring X, this one is split ring Y, and we have the side A, B, C, D. When it rotates, when the current is passing through it, it will rotate. So the sides will change. The CD will be there on the left hand side, and AB will be there on the right hand side. And we have the magnet, north and south poles are there. So the magnetic field, because the direction of the current has become reversed. See, the magnetic field from north to south and the direction of the current are always perpendicular when it reverses the direction. So the purpose of a split ring commutator in a DC motor to reverse the direction of a current in the coil when the plane become perpendicular to magnetic field. So you can see when the plane or of the wire is perpendicular to magnetic field. Because direction in which the current is passing and the magnetic field, they both are perpendicular 90 degrees to each other, not parallel to each other. The plane of a coil is refers to. When the coil is vertical, actually there is no current passing through. In a DC motor, when the coil is vertical, there is no current. Why there is no current? Because it loses the contact. The split ring commutators, it loses the contact. So actually there is no current when the coil is exactly vertical. So in vertical, there is no current. It reverses the direction of current when it rotates 180 and the coil is perpendicular to the magnetic field. So it again experiences a force and reverses the current. When AC generator, the coil is vertical, the induced EMF is minimum because the change is minimum. When the coil is horizontal, the induced EMF is maximum. As a change is maximum. In AC generator, the direction is, this is about DC motor, not AC generator. So in AC generator, as the coil rotates, there is a change in magnetic field which induce EMF. When the coil is horizontal, maximum induced EMF. When it is vertical, minimum induced EMF. And yeah, in that case, you can mention plane of the coil when it should be perpendicular. When the plane of the coil is perpendicular, there is a maximum induced EMF. And when it is plane of the coil is different and coil is different. When coil is horizontal, plane of the coil will be vertical to the magnetic field. So these are two different terms. The plane of a coil is different and coil horizontal and vertical is a different thing. Is it clear? So plane of a coil and the coil itself is different thing. Which statement is not correct? Alpha particles are used to detect the cracks in a metallic structure. Alpha cannot be used because alpha cannot pass through a paper. How it will pass through a metal and identify any cracks are there? We normally use X-rays are used for identifying the cracks in the metal. So alpha cannot be used. This statement is not correct. Beta particles are used to measure the thickness of the paper. As a thickness gauge, we can also use because no alpha even cannot pass through here. The thing is, for example, if there is a metal and the metal was having a crack, alpha cannot pass through 4 to 5, like alpha range is about 4 to 5 centimeter in air. So if there is a crack, even alpha might be stopped by the air. Alpha cannot pass through, like a range of alpha is very short, 5 to 6 centimeter in air. So it won't be able to pass through the crack. Even the opening is there, the crack is there, so it won't be able to pass. That's why this is not right. We use beta for finding the paper thickness. That's true. Gamma are used for treating the cancer patient, and smoke alarm contain a weak alpha source. How it works? Like example, if there is a radioactive source and there is a detector, a sensor is there, or electrode is actually there other than the sensor. So this electrode is there, positive and negative. When these alpha particle ionizes the air, like this is inside the smoke detector. When this alpha particle ionizes the air, alpha is having a strong ionizing capability. So it will produce both positive and negative charges. And these positive and negative charges move towards their respective electrode, which is linked to the external circuit. But in case of fire, for example, if there is a fire and the smoke produced, that smoke particle, the alpha cannot passes through the smoke, like it cannot pass through a paper, how it can pass through that smoke particle. So that ionization decreases, like it won't be able to ionize. So as a result, as it is not able to ionize, the detector, the electrode does not pick any signal. As a result, there is a bell is there which is connected, so that will ring. So it is used in the smoke alarms, but not in alpha cannot be used to determine the cracks in the metallic structure, as it cannot even pass through air easily, like a very short range is there. Is it clear? How it works? There is a NOT gate connected here. There is a NOT gate connected here. So with this NOT gate, when there is no signal, the NOT gate supply, this is a digital electronics. So a NOT gate, when there is no signal, it will supply a current, and there's a current, so this will start to work. Nucleus of americium contain 146 neutron and 95 proton. It decay by emitting out alpha. How many neutron and how many proton remain in the nucleus of americium? Because when alpha particle is emitted out, there were like 146 neutrons were there and 95 proton. Alpha particle means two protons and two neutrons will be released. So what we are left with, 146 minus 2, because two neutrons left. So 146 minus 2, it will be 144 neutrons will be there, and 95 minus 2, it will be 93 protons. So C will be the right answer. Is it clear? A 20-meter long uniform bridge with a load of 100, like its weight is 100 kilonewton. It is supported by pillars at each end. The pillar exert a force of T1 and T2. What are the values of T1 when the van of weight 24 Newton is 5 meter from the left hand pillar? So this distance is 5 meter. Now when two supports are there, one of them you have to consider as pivot. So example, if we consider this one as a pivot, a point of rotation, so this 24 kilonewton will cause a clockwise rotation. This 100 kilonewton will cause a clockwise rotation, and T2 will cause an anti-clockwise. So we'll use a conservation of the law of moment. So force 24, all are in kilonewton, so we don't have to convert the unit. So 24 times 5 plus 100 times, and what is the distance? Because if the total length of the bridge is 20, so weight is acting at the center as it's a uniform bridge, so that this will be 10 meter. So 100 into 10. So this is making a clockwise rotation equals to T2 times the distance total distance from the pivot, that's equal to 20. So it will be 24 into 5, which is equals to 120. Then this one is 1000 and T2 into 20. So it will be 120 plus 1000, which is 1000 into 120, and that is divided by 2, divided by 20. How I got 10? Because they mentioned that it is a uniform bridge. So uniform objects, the weight should act at the center. So distance from the pivot to the center, that is equals to half. The total is 20. So half of 20 is equals to 10. That's how I got 10. The total force is, the weight is 100 and the distance equal to 10. So this is 56. So T2 is equals to 56. So which option T2 is equals to 56? We have option C. So you just have to solve for one of them and the other one will be balanced. Even I can find T1 as well. How I can find T1? Then I will use the first condition of equilibrium, that the total upward force so I can also get T1 because T1 plus T2 is equals to T1 is upward, T2 is upward, and total downward force is 124. Why? Because 24 and 100. So as the second condition of equilibrium, total upward equals to total downward. After getting T2, like T1 plus 56 equals to 124, it will go other side. So T1 is 124 minus 56. So we'll get it 68. So C will be the right answer. So idea is that whenever two supports are there, you will consider one of them as a pivot and the other one is you will consider as a force contributing to a turning effect or a moment. Is it clear? This one? This is the same question I discussed. In this question, we have a current and voltage graph. Current and voltage graph, remember the slope represent the reciprocal of the resistance. So what is happening to the slope? The slope is increasing. So slope is increasing. It means the resistance is decreasing. So what happened to resistance of the X? The resistance of X is decreasing. So either A can be an answer or B. But what happened to temperature? Temperature and current are directly proportional. Like if a current is increasing, the temperature will also increase. As current, like greater flow of the charges, more collision between the particles, so the temperature will also increase. As if you are using a device which is having a greater current, it will produce greater heating effect. So if the current is increasing, what happened to the temperature? The temperature will also increase. So B will be the right answer. Is it clear discussion? It's the same question I discussed earlier. In which situation does object X have a greater mass than object Y? So weight is equals to mass multiplied by gravity. If the mass increase, but they're asking for the mass is amount of matter. Object X has a greater gravitational field strength than object Y, and both have the same weight. So it means the weight of X is equals to weight of Y. And weight is mass of X into gravity is equals to mass of Y into gravity. Now, as you see, if the object X is, according to the question, so object X is having a larger gravitational field strength. If the gravitational field strength is larger, then object Y, but both have the same weight. So if the value of a G is more, what happened to the mass? Because we want the same. The weight is the product of mass and gravity. So if we have a stronger gravity, gravitational field strength is more, the mass should be less to get the same value, because W of X, weight of X equals to weight of Y. And weight is mass into gravity. So mass into gravity into mass into gravity should be same. So mass of X and gravity equals to mass of Y and gravity of Y. In the question they mentioned object X is in a large gravitational field. So if object X is in a large gravitational field, but they have the same weight. So if the gravity is more, the mass should be less, because we want the product to be same. As here for Y, the gravity is less, so its mass should be more. And in the question, which situation does the object have X have a greater mass than object Y? When we check the second option, object X shows a greater resistance to change in the motion than object Y, or in both experience the same resultant force. Look, mass is an object, mass is a property to resist the change in state, or we also call inertia. Mass is related to inertia. If the object is having a greater mass, it will have a greater inertia, or it will have a greater resistance to change in motion. So statement B is like, for example, I have 5 kilogram object and I have 2 kilogram object. If we apply the same resultant force, like I'm applying a force of 10 Newton and applying a force of 10 Newton, same resultant force is applied on both of them. So which object will be difficult to move, or which will show a greater resistance to the change? The object which is having a more mass will show a greater resistance to the change in motion. So the object X, if it's having a greater mass, it will show a greater change resistance to the change in motion. Like it will be difficult to move, or it will be difficult to stop. Is it clear? And why statement C is not correct? Because object has low density, then if both occupy the same volume, if density is mass over volume, if the volume is same, the one which is having more mass should have more density. But they're saying object X is having lower density, so means in that case it will have a lower mass. And object X move at a greater speed than object Y when both possess the same kinetic energy. If both possess the same kinetic energy, like kinetic energy of X is equals to kinetic energy of Y, kinetic energy is half mv square, kinetic energy is half mv square. So if they have the same kinetic energy, if X is moving faster, it should have a smaller mass. And if this is having a greater mass, it will move slower. So Y will move slower because it will have greater mass, and X is more faster. So kinetic energy same should speed, or no, kinetic energy same does not mean speed is same, because the kinetic energy is half mv square. So the one object, if I say two objects are there, one is 2 kilogram, another one is 5 kilogram, and both have the same Ke, same kinetic energy. So which one will move faster? The one which is having a smaller mass will move faster, higher speed. The one which is having a smaller, greater mass will move slower, because the kinetic energy is same. So half mv square is same for both of them. If half mv square is same, the one which is having a greater mass should move slower. But they're saying object X is moves at a greater speed. So if it is moving at a greater speed, it means it is lighter, not heavier. So B is the right answer. Is it clear, this one? We need the critical angle. The diagram shows how a ray of a light reflected when going from air to the glass. The critical angle is C. So if a critical angle is C, like example, because the idea is that we have the refractive index. Refractive index is equals to 1 over sine C. Okay. That is the refractive index and critical angle relation. And what is the refractive index as it is moving from air to glass? So refractive index will be equal to sine angle I. Angle I is X and sine angle R, which is Z. So one of the formula refractive index is sine X over sine Z. Another is relating the critical angle and the refractive index n equal 1 over sine C. So when we compare these two equations, so we can say the sine X over sine Z is equals to 1 over sine C. So what is sine C? If we simplify this, we just cross multiply or take a reciprocal. So sine C is equals to sine Z divided by sine X. So sine Z divided by sine X equals to sine C. Is it clear, this one? A sample of americium turned into neptunium. Half-life is 432 years. What fraction will be there after 1728 years? So how many half-lives will be there? 1728 divided by 432. It will be 4 half-lives. So after, if it originally it is A, after first half-life A by 2, after another half-life A by 4, after another half-life A by 8, and after another half-life A by 16. So what fraction will be there after 4 half-lives? That will be 1 by 16. So B will be the right answer. Yeah, it can never be 0 because it's still some values are there. Diagram shows a uniform which is supported on two supports are there. What is the force exerted on a bar by support P? So if we consider this as a pivot and it's a uniform bar means its weight will act at the center. So this will be equal to 4 Newton and we need this force. And this is a point of rotation of pivot. So it will be 4 into 10 by 4 and the distance from pivot is 10. And the force from P, that is example F, and the distance from the pivot from 10 to 50, 10 to 60, that is equals to 50. So it will be 40 divided by 50. So 40 divided by 50 equals to 0.8. So we consider as when two supports are there, we consider one of them as pivot and we have to calculate force of P. So we consider Q as a pivot and use the clockwise equals to anti-clockwise rotation. Here the pressure does not depend on the depth. So they all will exert the same pressure.